Welcome to Germany vs. USA. And on today's episode, we're going to discuss the fate of Bremen, that damn COVID, and why cash is gross.
So here we are in our first episode of the new podcast, Germany vs. USA, right?
Very new, uncut, unedited, because we're still learning post.
Also, basically unscripted, kind of like the YouTube videos as well. So, we decided to go audio. What else is there to say, Jim? I don't know. It's weird. Like not sitting next to you.
It is strange to be not sitting next to you and having this discussion. So, if this is your first time listening, thank you for joining. Alex and I have been doing Germany vs. USA, mostly videos for the last 10 years. And as you'll learn listening to us, it's a conversation between friends where we discuss the similarities and differences between Germany and USA and really whatever is on our mind. So like today, we just watched Bremen at least cover their butts for one more week or so, right?
Yeah, the German soccer team Werder Bremen today play. I'm their fan, so I watched the game, and Bremen almost basically directly went down to the Zweite Bundesliga, to the second league, and through some miracle today, they still have a chance to basically remain in the first league. And I watched that game, and so that's I'm very, very excited about that, actually.
A big relief, right? And I think one thing that's interesting with your format, actually, that's different than other soccer leagues, is it's not just that the bottom two teams get sent down to the second division. It's also that dreaded third spot. You know, if you're the third to last team in the Bundesliga, you then have to play the third best team in the second league, and it's like a fight, right? And so that is the next thing that's going to happen. And how does that happen? Like, when is that going to happen?
It's actually happening next week already, like I think on July 2nd. And I mean, by the time you are listening to this, you know, Bremen might already be in the second league or still be in the first league. Who knows? Hopefully it's the first league. But so next week, like July 2nd, and I think July, was it 7th? So basically it's a home and away game. And whoever, you know, basically has the better result at the end is going to either, you know, remain in the second league, go to the second league, or move up to the first league. If it's and we actually right now it's not clear who Bremen is going to play. And it is possible, which is, you know, actually that I'm in Hamburg right now. And Hamburg and Bremen have a huge rivalry soccer-wise. I mean, it's one of the biggest rivalries in the Bundesliga, basically. And the Hamburg, the HSV, is in the second league since like 2 or 3 years, basically 2 years, I think. And they were always called the dinosaur in the league because they were the first and only team in the league to have started the Bundesliga and still be in it, basically. But well, that changed 2 years ago, and now they are in fourth place in the second league. So tomorrow they're going to play, and it might actually be that Bremen is going to play Hamburg in the relegation about who's going to get to the first Bundesliga.
That's funny. I'd say I didn't realize who they would be playing, and I didn't realize it would be a home and away, because I know like on like the preseason tournaments, a lot of times the tier 1 teams go to the tier 2 teams facilities, and it's like a fundraiser and revenue generator and all that. I think we've actually watched Hamburg and Bremen play one another in Division 1, and Hamburg got the win a few years back, if I remember correctly. So that's interesting that it could actually happen. I guess you won't be going since there's no fans.
Yeah, no, I'll just probably go to the Kneipe here around the corner and watch it basically with a bunch of friends and a few friends, Corona times. Let's see. Let's see. Actually, I mean, now, you know, let's talk about that for a second, because I was just watching the Bremen game in a outside in a bar here. And so a friend of mine came over basically. And you know, in Hamburg right now, you're only allowed to be outside in public with people from 2 different households. So the 2 of us were hanging out, and another friend came by, and he couldn't sit with us, right?
Now, I understand, like, if you're in a park and maybe a police officer comes up and, sees a big group and they may say, hey, break it up or whatever. But, does like a bar or restaurant or anything, are they responsible for monitoring that? Or do they just kind of turn a blind eye? How does that work? Like, if
Well,
you show up and sit on an outside table, is the, wait staff going to actually check you?
actually, they give you basically papers, and you sometimes they have like a QR code where you sign it online, but mostly, I mean, we're still in Germany. Hey, so they give you paper and a pen. And you fill out your address, your name, your address, sometimes your phone number, and so basically, what they do is they make sure that only two households are being basically on this paper. That's their responsibility. I mean, of course, if you as a guest like lie and just say you're, let's say you're six people and you are actually from like six different households, but you just claim that you're from two different households. I mean, then you basically, then it's up to the guests. So the restaurant doesn't need to check if it's actually like true information they are giving their guests. So
Let's be honest. By the time a waiter actually approaches your table, everyone has COVID. I mean, because they let you sit, you're hanging out. You're like, is this place even open? What's going on? So I don't know. I feel like it's really unfair to make it part of the restaurant or wait staff responsibility. I fully support, social distancing and, having some type of order in place, because as you can see here in the States right now, we are struggling severely with it. It was terrible in
dude,
the, I mean, it was
isn't the
just terrible,
highest
right?
count since March, right? Isn't it the highest? I mean,
Yeah. And it's coming all
shit.
through the South now. So it's all over Texas and Florida. Houston it could be another like New York City situation. So it's really scary, the way that we have not been able to properly manage it, So, I joke about Germany with like two households or whatever, but I mean, God, we can't even get people to wear masks here, and it's just like, just put on your mask before you go out, try to social distance, do what you can. But there's
But
just
why
no
is
way,
it
like,
like? Do people refuse to wear masks, or are people just not taking it serious? Because I mean, everyone has seen the images. I mean, we were also like talking about like in March or April when severe restrictions came in Germany. We always like, well, look at what happened in Italy, right? And then also look at what's happening in New York. I mean, and doesn't that like and now it's happening basically in the South. Like, don't people react to that, or do they just ignore that, or say it's fake? I don't know.
yeah, I think, to speak in broad strokes, it's a lot of different things going on. One, I don't know how well informed a lot of people are, on it. I think there's, unfortunately, so many things here in the States have become polarized by politics. Wearing a mask may be seen as like being liberal, right? Whereas not wearing a mask is like, part of your freedom and your right, which is really unfortunate, right? Because it should not. This is a public health issue, not a political issue. But that's one area of concern. The other area is, you can just really see that a lot of people have just not had to make certain sacrifices here. I mean, I I'm just gonna say, it just feels like sometimes a bit of a sense of entitlement of like, no, I'm not going to wear my mask, or I'm not going to follow those rules. Oh, I can't be inconvenienced. And obviously, not everyone's doing that. There's millions and millions of people here doing everything they can to keep themselves healthy, keep their loved ones healthy, keep the spread down. But it doesn't take a high percentage of people to ignore those requirements where it can actually spread, right? I can speak being in Nashville, because we watch like our numbers here, and the highest percentage, of the time of this recording is people in their 20s and 30s. So what
Okay.
happens there, because it's a young city, people love to go out, but then people come
You
from
have
all over the
Broadway, right?
country. Yeah, people come from all over the country to party here, and then they take it back with them, and then they may unknowingly spread it to their parents or their grandparents
Hmm.
or
You,
high
you,
risk
you,
people. So
you're like the American Ishka. Yeah.
I know it's sad, right? And I don't know what's going to happen. And I think, you're seeing like Arizona right now is really getting hit, where originally, they weren't, and people are like, well, it's not that populated. It's an open air state, where maybe baseball will be played there this year because it's not going to be here. And now they're getting hit. And even bringing it back to soccer, the MLS, which is our Major League Soccer Association, the NBA, the WNBA, and I believe the women's professional league, for soccer. They were all planning to do a tournament in Orlando, Florida, which is around the Walt Disney, ABC, ESPN facilities. And so they were going to come in, all the professional athletes. They were going to isolate them, their families, and then they were going to do some type of tournament. So, like for the MLS, it's 26 teams, and so they were all going to come in, and then they were going to do basically like a World Cup round robin type tournament, to finish their season, right? But now you're having players saying, "Hey, Florida's a mess. Like, we don't know if we want to, subject ourselves to going there. We don't know if we want to play. We don't know if we want, our
Be
families
exposed to that
to
risk, right? Yeah.
right. And so I've seen it more with NBA players saying, you know what, for personal reasons, we're not going to play. So I don't know. I mean, these tournaments are supposed to start here in a couple of weeks.
Oh,
and
they're still planning to do them?
yeah. Oh, yeah. They're still planning to do them. The NBA is still moving forward. MLS was originally going to start 4th of July weekend. They've moved it back a week. I think they're monitoring the situation. But even the MLS, which is so much smaller than like the NBA, they've already lost $1 billion. They shut down in March. So, I mean, you're talking about a very big like entertainment industry that they're trying to do it, which again goes back to just like some of the soccer we were watching earlier. If at least from the American broadcast, watching the games, they pipe in artificial sound like on the TV production, and then like so you're like watching it, you're seeing this naked stadium, but you're getting like the songs, the clapping, the cheers, everything
the
going
audience
on,
celebrating.
Yeah. So is it the same way in Germany?
No, I think there's actually, I think there's certain TV, like by default, if you watch it on television, it's basically just quiet. So it's actually really cool because you can hear the players and the coaches like voices, basically. But I think there are some like broadcasters, I think Sky or even DAZN, who basically show the Bundesliga. I think they have different like audio channels where you can actually have the sound of like some kind of audience. I mean, that's actually a really cool thing. A team in Germany did, I think it was Borussia Mönchengladbach. So they asked their fans if they want their own picture basically printed out in almost like original size, basically. And so they put the counterfeits of the fans in the stadium on the seats, basically. And it actually, you had it wasn't the illusion, but it looked like there were actually fans in there, and so people could actually see themselves sitting in the chair on like a printed on paper, basically.
Oh, that's cool.
That looked really
it's
cool.
It's a nice like fan service because I'm sure they did not reimburse the season ticket holders. They're probably like, sorry, better luck next year.
I know. Actually, there's another thing that Schalke 04, like Gelsenkirchen, that they did. So basically, they asked their fans. So because a bunch of people like bought tickets, and like legally, you can get the money back for the tickets, right? The event didn't happen, and you as someone who's purchased a ticket, you can basically just get the money back. And so what Schalke did is they sent a letter to their fans, basically saying, we be super happy and encourage you guys not to demand the reimbursement for the tickets. And then they said basically, but if you do, can you kind of prove that you really need the money, please? So they basically asked the fans to somehow supply information that they're needy of that money.
There's no way there's just no way that stood up. God, I mean, could you imagine if someone did that here? God, they would get sued 100 times over. You're like, are you kidding me? No, I'm getting my money back because you didn't provide the service that you promised you were going to provide.
Well, they said they will, but please really make sure and let us know why you really need that money. And they asked for for basically documents to prove that. That was
Yeah.
in the letter basically that they. I mean, of course, a day later, I mean, they were shitstormed like hell.
I can imagine. That actually, speaking of money, if you, I know from a TV contract standpoint, it's terrible to be bumped down from Division 1 to Division 2. But what happens to the players? Are their contracts still honored? Do they still make the same amount of money? Or how does that? Or because is it like a different salary cap? In the second division, do you know?
I think it really depends on the contracts that the individual player have with the teams. Because I think, like for instance, when Hamburg, like the HSV, they were also like they were always very like kind of arrogant about not. I mean, like they basically said it was impossible that Hamburg is going to the second league. So all their contracts never included like a second league kind of option. So they had to pay their players when they went to the second league like millions of salaries, which of course they couldn't because they just didn't make the money in the second Bundesliga. But then I guess teams who are likely or who know that they're going to go into the second league, they probably have like salary caps or where they basically say, hey, if we move to the second league, I mean, some players basically have the option that if the team goes to the second league, they can basically change the team.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. I wish we had that here. It would make more teams competitive. And you could do it with baseball easily. I don't know if soccer will ever get there. The MLS. There's more and more development teams. Nashville just got an MLS team, so that's pretty cool. And they had a development team for a few years before. But yeah, I love the competitiveness of actually being like, oh my God, we have to compete, we have to win. It does like the fans a good service and everything.
Yeah, good. I think we've at least drawn out enough like fans who hate soccer from our audience.
I know. I was just looking at our clock. So one thing we haven't mentioned is Alex and I can actually see one another. We're doing a screen share right now, and we have an exit clock. And I was looking at it, being like, God, we just went really sports heavy. After doing like 200 videos together, where I think we talked about sports maybe once. So this is not a sports show. We just happened to be watching soccer before we got in. So we'll be right back after the break and go from there.
Mayday, Mayday. Hello, can you hear us? Can you hear us? Can you... Over. We are sinking. We are sinking.
Hello? This is the German Coast Guard.
We are sinking. We're sinking.
What are you thinking about?
So we're back at it, and Jim and I just realized that we we kind of tried to get into the like audiences in y'all's perspective, as Southerner would say. And perhaps we started off very specific with a very specific in-depth topic, and we want to give you like a couple more. Or perhaps talk a little bit more about, Germany versus USA, perhaps what happened the last couple of years, what we want to do with this podcast, and where we're going, right?
I really just wanted to talk about contract law, with the MLS, but we can do that as well if you want to, Alex. I think that's a fair point. So yeah, man. What have you been up to, like just in general? Because I know we've already been in communication with some people who've watched our videos the last few years, and it's good to be sharing content with them again. But I think they're wanting to know like, where'd you go and what's new?
Yeah. I mean, like the comments of, we thought you guys fell off the end of the world, basically. Or, so, I mean, it was like morbid almost. Like, we thought you guys were dead.
One of them died. The other one's probably guilty.
Yeah, I think it was on Facebook. Someone used like a meme, like the return of the crazy ones. Like, I'm like, oh, I'm not sure if we're that crazy, actually.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, so I think we said it. If you listen to the trailer, then you might already know this. But Jim and I have been basically stopped recording or shooting videos in like 2014, 2015, basically. And but we still like met. I visited Jim a couple times. Jim went here, and but we just didn't record because before, in like the years 2012, 13, 14, I would basically fly to the US to Jim, and we would like for usually like 2 weeks, right? And then
so what Alex was saying is basically we've been hanging out since the last time we posted stuff, right? So we started doing videos when we were in our early 20s, and then we've always traveled around together. And then the last few years, we were like, you know what? Let's just hang out. Let's not worry about having a production schedule. Let's just make sure that we get to like do some cool stuff as friends. So we've stayed in touch. If you listen to our first, take on this, like we mentioned that. So, we didn't fall off the face of the earth. Alex didn't kill me, and no one spent any time in prison. So those are all very good things.
Well,
well,
yeah, no, it's all fine. And actually, I mean, so much stuff happened in between. I mean, I think one of the biggest things that is still so interesting for us is that we didn't talk about a certain election that happened in the States, right?
We didn't, and that wasn't like we didn't stop recording because of the election. That's another comment of like they just couldn't handle Trump, which I mean is fair. We can't handle Trump. It's been a horrible experience, and I think in a lot of ways just a global embarrassment. I will say at least for me. So. Hopefully things will change in November, but this isn't really a political show. There's a lot of great experts out there that you can get awesome political commentary on. We will share our opinions every once in a while, but Trump didn't kill GVU, but we are excited that it's almost over.
Hopefully, yeah. I mean, but one thing that I realize is that, I mean, if you think about like the sentiment towards the United States, that has changed through Trump here. Like the sentiments of Germans towards the United States. I think way more people here are skeptical or critical towards the USA. Of course, I think for a good reason, but also sometimes on a level that is not fair in my point of view. But it's just it's not good for the German-American relationship. Basically,
It's not good. It's not good for any relationship, right? And I lived in Germany, and spent a lot of time in different parts of Europe during the Bush administration. So, there I'm used to pushback or like, hey, what are you doing politically? And though the Bush administration was very, very tough, in a lot of ways, I never could imagine that we would be in a situation that we're in now with someone like Trump, who is just terrible, right? And so I think a lot of the global criticism is very fair. And it's, a lot of times, a lot of that attention is focused towards him. But the larger problem too is it's not just Trump, it's his gang of idiots around him. It's the policies that they're trying to push through, and it goes all the way down into the lower levels, to like state government, local government, and
the bipolarity, right, of media as well. I mean, there's no more gray; it's just black and white.
It is, and you can't. Yeah, you just there's nothing that you can get done. Even like what we were talking about a minute ago with like wearing a mask, like, just wear your mask when you go out, and that maybe will help prevent others from getting sick, right? It's that simple. But now it's a political statement, right? Where Trump and Pence were visiting plants and they didn't want to wear a mask because, that's a liberal agenda. And you're like, it's not, we're just trying to like stay healthy.
stop the your mucus coming out of your mouth to spread, right? I mean, it's
Yeah. So let
it's
me.
very true. And I think,
Well, I was
sorry,
just
go
going to
ahead. Yeah.
ask on. I think one thing that's interesting is if we're going to talk a little bit on politics with Merkel's in her last term, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
she's not gonna get up for re-election. She promised.
Yeah, and I think even though with her transitioning out, it was probably a lot different. Almost 4 years ago of like how that handoff or how that change would actually look. But then you see everything that's happened in the United States. You see what's happened in like the UK with Brexit, even the French elections from a few years ago, where it was so nasty, right? Has that reshaped the thinking of Germans and how they want to like move forward with so much being in turmoil?
I think, at least, I mean, that's my point of view, my subjective opinion. But I was really, really happy that we are. I mean, we probably don't have the most exciting leadership of any country. Basically, Angela Merkel. She's not like the most entertaining, exciting person, but she's very stable. She's constant, and she's like fact oriented. I mean, she studied physics basically, so she's very focused on facts. And if I look back at like how they handled the entire like COVID phase, our political basically leadership, I think they did a really, really good job. Or if you look at it all together, and then if you start comparing it to some other countries how they handle it, I'm like, oh, I mean, Germany is being used as like a poster child of how such a crisis should be handled. And so I think we should be happy that we were able to manage it in that manner, basically. But yeah, I mean, that's my point of view. But I think very many people are happy that we have a structured leadership.
Yeah, well, as you should be, because I mean, look, one of the best things about the United States is that politicians come and go, right? So you do have an opportunity to change the situation that you may or may not like. It saddens me that it has become so just black or white, Republican, Democratic. No one can get along. It seems to be very agenda based. But there's a lot that can be done. And it goes back to, I think you and I talked about this a while ago. Like, man, I don't know. It's tough. We're not experts on this, but there's so much attention on the federal government, and the federal government has a lot of problems. But even here with the United States being such a complex entity, with state governments and local governments, actually paying attention to what's going on in your area, making sure that you are registered to vote, you do vote, so your opinion is heard. Stuff like that, being involved and staying informed is really important. And I'm hopeful that because of what happened with Trump actually winning when no one thought he would win, that it's actually forced people to re-engage and saying, what is going on? Why is this happening? And how can we do something to change it? Right. And that doesn't mean just like Democratic voters. I think there's a lot of conservative voters who, at first were like, okay. And then they're like, oh my God, like this isn't the GOP. That like,
shit, what is happening?
Yeah. Like, what did he just do? What is going on? So I'm trying to be optimistic and hopeful about it. But it has been a really tough few years that you just, every day it can shock you. You can just shock and horrify you.
I just had to think of the morning after Trump was elected, because I remember I didn't actually wait for the result of the election like late at night, because I was kind of for sure Trump was not going to be elected, and it was kind of like self understood. And then I woke up basically in the morning, and like I looked at my phone, and the first thing I had was like a text from Jim basically saying, "Hey, is there a ditch in your apartment where I can live for the next 4 years or 5 years?" basically. And I mean,
can I get out? So we had friends over that night, and it wasn't a election party, but we had people over. We were grilling out. We had the election on, and we just all assumed that Hillary would win and it would be called really early because they basically start calling stuff on the East Coast, and then it as you go through the different time zones, it takes a little while, and then some things get recalled or whatever. But all of a sudden, like it like wasn't going how like everyone thought, and so it turned into this moment where my friends and we were all sitting there like watching, and a lot of us stayed up all the way to like 2 a.m. in the morning, 3 a.m. in the morning until when everything was called. And we were all just like shocked. We were like, what did this happen? And then SNL did a skit like 2 weeks later where
SNL is Saturday Night Live, right?
Right. Yeah. Saturday Night Live did this skit where with Dave Chappelle hosting, where it just was making fun of like all the people who just assumed that the election was going to go one way. And like just it hit it so spot on with like, God, like I feel like an idiot now. Like just because you just completely shocked.
Yeah. And then I guess, and then fearful, right? You know what? We're new to the podcast thing, but I think we can put the link to that video in the podcast notes.
Oh yeah, we should. That seems very nice. So actually, now that we've gone sports, politics, we're gonna take another break because people are like, Jesus, what happened to like talking about like candy or
doggy bags,
doorknobs, or
you keep referring doorknobs, but you never let me make an episode about doorknobs.
Did we not actually? Did we not?
No, we never did.
Okay,
no,
so
you said.
I'm going to just tell this story. Well, so when Alex and I first met, and this is how this actually came about, why we stuck the camcorder in the microwave and started sharing some of the stuff, because we were both very fascinated by like what interests one another, like the observations that the other person may have. And so one thing, Alex and I were traveling a lot at the time together, and Alex was like, look, see? That doorknob is different. You would never see that doorknob in Germany. And I'm like, if I shut my eyes, I don't know if I can even envision a doorknob, Alex. So like, we're not making a video, about doorknobs. And he's like, no, like they're so different. And so that one, that never got greenlit.
Yeah, I'll the next actual video we make, it's going to be a doorknob episode.
Just very intensive. Like we're going to get like a doorknob historian on there to talk about it.
I've seen blogs written about the difference between American and German doorknobs. Really?
I know. And now that I'm like watching This Old House and, home repair things, I'm much more informed. So maybe we should just make this a doorknob podcast. We only talk about doorknobs.
Perfect. I think we'll take a little break and we'll be back in a minute.
You see, the thing is, you're talking to a modern, nice, affable German person, and they're saying to you something like, well, it's a critical time now for Germany within Europe, also globally. Economically, we're pretty good, we have been better, but we're very vibrant in the theater and arts and so on. All the time you listen to this, you're thinking, Hitler. There's a Hitler when you did the Hitler thing with Hitler. Hitler.
Okay, so we are back after just killing our audience with sports and politics. So we figured we'd spend like the next 20 minutes talking a little bit about religion and which one is right for you. Just get rid of the last two people hanging in there. No, so we do want to spend some time because we want to be very transparent in this process. As hey, we're going to be modifying the show and podcasts as we go on, and we're going to have different things that we bring into every episode, but then every episode's going to be unique. And so one thing that we do want to maintain and improve is just that spirit of Germany versus USA, and our perspective of the differences in the cultures, but also what's similar, and then tied into more fun topics than politics or religion or COVID or sports, but like, pop culture and, what's going on in Germany today that, maybe wasn't going on in 2016 when we last communicated to you, or, what's, for instance, like we talked about the change, the winds of change, right? It's a great cultural podcast that, deserves to be talked about. Or as Alex and I are both big basketball fans, The Last Dance, so there's, and how Michael Jordan impacted not only America, but, globally and became that global icon.
Right. Or, I mean, there's one thing that I stumbled upon. The Dixie Chicks are not called Dixie Chicks anymore, right?
No, I guess are they just called the Chicks?
Chicks.
Chicks?
Yeah, they got rid of the Dixie part. I was like, wow, this is. I mean,
yeah, that's a big
interesting, right?
So it's a one that I actually feel the Dixie Chicks are being. Well, I shouldn't say this. I don't know them at all, but I think they're being a little more genuine than there's a band called Lady Antebellum, and they're now just going to say, hey, we're just going to be Lady A, because we didn't know like what antebellum meant.
And perhaps let's explain to our audience a little bit what antebellum means, because I think some people might not know that reference. Dixie is more popular, basically. I mean, Dixie is like referred to the Mason-Dixie line that is referred to as the South, right?
Yeah. And Dixie's for the South. And Alex, with your years of Latin, do you want to break down antebellum?
Yeah. So in the German pronunciation would be antebellum, which just means before the war, right?
Before the war, yes. So yeah, ante before, bellum war. So it's before war.
Which war? Because we were on vacation.
Yes. So this is actually where you I think is important. So that term does mean pre-war. So technically, you could say, this is an antebellum home, and you could be referencing prior to World War II or prior to World War I or whatever. But no one does that. It is always the Civil War, and that is like the era that it is most used in. So to say we didn't know what antebellum meant is ridiculous. I mean, the album cover, they were at an antebellum plantation, which was a slave operation. So I think, I don't know if I really believe their story. I also don't know if their name change was necessary. If they want to change their name, that's fine. And I support that. But don't be like, we didn't know. Like, you knew,
right, yeah.
Like you knew, and everyone knows what it means, at least in the US,
right.
Internationally,
and
if you don't,
and I think
different.
It would have been fine to change that. Like, the societal perspective on that just has changed, right? And it did. Yeah. I mean, like, it's fine to say, hey, we're looking at it in a different way now, like kind of like the Dixie Chicks did, and we want to change it. And I think that's way more authentic and genuine than being like, oh, we gave our band a name that we didn't know, what it basically means. Really, it's like, really, you chose that name without knowing it? That sounds
come on.
fishy.
And you are marketing to people mostly in the Southeast, like
yeah, okay.
It's real weak. So just to pull it back, you see, Dixie Chicks will now be Chicks or the Chicks. I don't know officially which one they're doing. And then
I think it's the Chicks. Yeah,
the Chicks, and they've been outspoken for many years. So even when we were talking about the differences between, this conservative, I hate to even use that word, but this administration and like the Bush administration, the Dixie Chicks took a lot of heat back in the day because they came out and they're like, hey, we do not support the war in Iraq. We do not support the behavior of Dick Cheney. We do not export, XYZ. So it's not like they were, rocking.
Speaking up to someone's mouth or something, they are.
Yeah, I mean, they have been very politically transparent on their views and how they see the world, and they have been for a really long time. So, making that change seems much more natural than Lady Antebellum. So, Lady A.
Okay. Lady A. Okay. So actually, what we we didn't do what we said we would do. So we kind of wanted to talk about different segments that we want to basically now start creating for Germany versus USA, right? I mean, all these different podcasts have really cool, segments, and they're kind of fun to work with, right? And so we asked you guys to come up with ideas for segments, and we have a couple. I mean, I pitched that to Jim like yesterday. I think would be kind of cool if we both individually watched one of our Germany versus USA episodes. I know you know them all by heart, Jim. I know, but
yeah,
perhaps you can watch them one more time then in preparation for the podcast. So we both picked like a specific episode that we rewatch, and we basically give ourselves give our old videos feedback from today, right? And like perhaps talk about what changed or what's the same or what's embarrassing that we said, whatever it is, right?
Yeah, I'm excited to watch our videos for the first time.
First time, yeah.
I probably need to do a little homework, and I may be horrified because I'm like, wait, I said that? What? That's terrible. I think I do remember, because when you're doing this and you have a microphone on or you're recording, you always say stuff that you just regret, right? You're like, oh man, I wish I had phrased that differently, or I wish I had done something. But I remember we were doing one episode, and I said something that was really dumb. I'm not going to repeat it. It was a mistake on. Well, I'll just say it. I thought Costa Rica was a territory. I meant Puerto Rico, and I can't remember. I think we were talking about statehood. And I just said Costa Rica, and I meant Puerto Rico, and I knew in the moment, like once I said it, I was wrong, but I didn't correct myself because I was like, oh, I don't feel like, reshooting this segment or moving on. And it's like one of those things that like occasionally, like I'll be like on a jog and I'll just think about it and be like, oh man, that's a really dumb comment.
Just really gets you down, like, oh shit, the Costa Rica thing back in the days. Oh no.
Like,
if I think back, I think in this one episode I claimed that like, asparagus season was twice a year. That was complete bullshit. Just for some reason I thought, and the same I thought about mushrooms, that like mushrooms and asparagus, basically bloomed 2 times a year, which I don't know where it came from, but that was also one of the things like
just not true. What? So is it like is it a spring and a fall? So like, because asparagus season is like early summer, right?
Yeah, it just ended basically. I think it ends officially. It ends on like June 21st or something. Yeah, Spargel. Oh, kein Spargel mehr.
Yeah, Weißspargel. Is that right? White.
Weißer Spargel, yeah, genau.
Yeah.
It's the dick asparagus.
Yeah, very good. Sehr gut. No, so I've been there because I've actually never gone mushroom picking with you. You've never invited me to go mushroom picking, and I know you do that a lot. But do you always have to go to the north, or is that like a specific region? Because I've never been included on that intimate moment actually, of mushroom picking.
I've been trying to pick mushrooms like for a long time basically, but I only was successful last year. So I've for 3 years, like here in Hamburg, I tried to pick mushrooms, but there's like 2 terrible like mushroom years, I guess. And then the other year I couldn't find a spot. I didn't find anything basically. And then last fall, so fall 2019, I went to my parents' house. They live a little in the countryside, and we went into the woods and picked mushrooms. And man, did we find a lot! That was so exciting. That was a lot of fun.
I was just thinking, like you're talking about, last few years have been kind of tough. The mushroom seasons have just not been there for us. And it's been I'm just like sitting there thinking about the last few years in the States. I'm like, oh yeah, it's been kind of tough here too. Just on a few things.
Well, mushrooms are important for a German's mind. Believe me.
Oh, that's so good. But no, and again, we're getting off topic, but that's part of the show format. But we are going to have different segments, to have some show structure, that, we can revisit old episodes. We want to talk about pop culture. We want to talk about how travel has even changed. I was actually laughing. I was looking back through some of my old stuff and like all my old paperwork and my digital camera. And even I had the first time I went to Europe, I was a teenager, and my parents gave me a handheld translator that was bigger than like my iPhone. And
like a machine kind of thing.
a machine. And I was in Poland, and I got the most use out of it in Poland because I was on a train and everyone was smoking cigs on the train, and we were just going on. And they didn't speak any English, I didn't speak any Polish, and so we were just passing back and forth this archaic translator to communicate, and we were like playing cards and drinking and like really just having a great time. And a few years ago I was in Peru, and we were same situation where needed help with translation, and we just had our iPhones open with Google Translate, and we were just quickly doing it. And it was just like, it's all this right here, so anyway, there's lots of examples of like how when you and I started traveling versus like what's it like for someone backpacking or visiting the States or studying abroad, that has, I think, become a lot easier, frankly.
Yeah. It did. So yeah, I think that's travel. That's central to also like to our show, to the episodes, the things we talk about. Has always basically the backbone of it was travel and visiting one another. So I think that's also going to be like a theme in the entire in the show, right?
Oh yeah, well, that's what we like. This show wouldn't actually, or this episode wouldn't really show that, considering we've talked about things that we usually don't talk about. Not that we avoid them, but most of our conversations really are about travel and cultural knowledge, and so we will try not to beat you to death with, the MLS, which we know so many people love.
Right. Good. So again, we are asking you to send us ideas for different segments, like like top 5 things we could mention in Germany, in the USA, whatever you come up with. We have a couple ideas, and we're going to slowly implement them into the next episodes, I guess, right?
Absolutely.
And so that, I think, finishes up the first episode of Germany versus USA in the new format, audio podcast. Now is the time for the podcasting. And we'll be back sometime soon, right? we won't take another like 5 years. I guess we can promise that.
I mean, we like to come about every leap year or so. So, all right, we'll see you sooner than later. Y'all take it easy.
Cheers.